Pikes Peak, 14,110 feet above sea level, magnificently rising above Colorado's Front Range, one of the most beautiful and glorious peaks in all of the Rocky Mountains. Untamed by man until a road was finally built to its top in 1915. 1 year later, they were racing to the clouds. This unforgiving mountain annually has hosted a motor race unlike any other in the world. The weather, even in July, can bring snow, hail, sleet, rain, and sunshine at different altitudes and different times throughout the day. 156 thrilling turns, 1,500-foot cliffs just waiting for a mistake, 12.5 miles from start to finish. And yet they come, year after year. From around the world they come to challenge the peak in 20 different classes of vehicles, two-wheel and four-wheel alike, each with the single purpose, to be the first in the race to the clouds. From Colorado Springs, Colorado, Yokohama Tires presents the Baja Pro Trucks at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb.
If the mountain wants you to win, you'll win. You know, the mountain has its own mystique.
Don't expect to take something from it. You're gonna get what she gives you. And
you just think of this horrid, you know, racing on the edge of a mountain and you fly off the road, you're gonna die. You know, it's extreme.
Came a little too fast in one of the corners and slid sideways, and we slid right to the edge of the pavement. And that was a little bit of an eye-opener for me.
I'll be happy with getting to the top of the hill.
I need to go talk to the mountain this time and try and get on its good side.
Well, I think that if you have any history here at all, you really understand that mountain really talks to us. I think, and I call her a she. That's my own personal thing. But I think she, when she doesn't want us to get a record, she throws, you know, wrenches at us so that we can't get the record. If she, I think if she's trying to see a change at the top, she gives us weather like we've had today. And I don't know that we've ever had a better week up here than we've had. And I really feel that she's telling us it's time for the record to go.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. I'm Steve Weiss along with Ivan Ironman Stewart. And Ivan, this is the second year that you've brought the Baja Pro Trucks to the race to the clouds.
Well, Stevie, we've talked before, and I've absolutely just loved this place, and I never did get a chance to race this hill all the years that I raced for Toyota. And I was always envious of that fact that it's such a gorgeous place to race. The history, my sponsors love it, the competitors love it. You know, we're going to have fantastic racing. The guys are getting more aggressive. It's going to be a ton of fun.
This is the second year. What will we see different?
Well, I think what we're going to see is the trucks are much lower than they were last year. They're learning to get the center of gravity down. The other biggest thing, I think, that we've established a record for the Baja Pro Trucks up the hill. So these guys are already asking what was the time for last year. They're going to be running a lot harder. They're going for that record.
As Ivan mentioned, a tremendous amount of history and tradition that goes along with the running of this race each year. Pikes Peak International Hill Climb is certainly a landmark in motorsports history and one of racing's most treasured prizes. As the second oldest motor race in America and one of the most prestigious in the world, it's hosted a who's who of racing royalty. It's attracted the competitive spirit of names like the Unsers, the Andrettis, the Donners, and the Dallenbachs. And for each of those famous families, Pikes Peak has stood tall as one of the races they just couldn't walk away from. Starting with grandfathers and then passed down to fathers and sons, they return again and again, intent on beating the mountain. This race has tradition like no other anywhere on the planet. Throughout its history, Pikes Peak has been very stingy in allowing its competitors to conquer it. The ever-changing weather, the winding course, including death-defying hairpin turns and terrifying drop-offs. The surface changes from gravel to asphalt and back. truly make the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb the most unique event in motorsports. Strap yourself in and get ready to fly. When we come back, it's launch time as Yokohama Tire presents the Baja Pro Trucks at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. Welcome back. This is Steve Weiss along with Ivan Stewart at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. Ivan, let's get into the specifics of what makes up a Pro Truck.
Well, basically, Steve, we have a chassis that's exactly the same. Every manufacturer is represented. The only difference from a Dodge to a Ford to a Chevrolet is the body has to match the chassis. In other words, if it's a Ford body, it has to have a Ford engine. The same brakes, the same tires, the same Bilstein shocks. It's a true driver's class. In the very sense of a driver's class, this is it.
Well, the Pro Trucks qualified earlier this week to determine their starting order one at a time, racing against the clock. Fastest qualifiers pick where they want to go. Usually they prefer to put everyone else out in front of them, Ivan.
Well, in the history of this hill anyway, and last year, the guys that want to qualify the quickest wants that last starting position to get all that dust off the road.
Cody Swati from Kingman, Arizona will be the first off the line, and we have trackside reporter Kurt Hansen standing by to get a word with our drivers.
You know, we've been here for 3 days practicing, and it's our first time up here, and I mean, man, this is just a lot of fun. I didn't think it was going to be this much fun, and I mean, we're so excited. I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
Well, you know, we say one thing about racers, you can tell by the eyes. They're pretty glassy, you're pretty focused. Any last-minute thoughts before you assault Pikes Peak?
No, we're just going to try to make smart, wise decisions and try to be smooth all day and make it up to the top as soon as we can.
Well, you got 156 opportunities to make smart decisions or bad decisions, so good luck to you.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right.
And here we go, Ivan. The Pro Trucks heading up the hill of Pikes Peak. Cody is driving his big Dodge. Cody comes into this race currently second in the Baja Pro Trucks point standings behind Jason Voss. He's been pretty solid. His best finish of 5th this year, Ivan.
Yeah, Cody's doing great. He does have the big Dodge. You know, I notice if you hear the engines missing once in a while, what that is, Steve, is we have a rev limiter on all these trucks where they only rev to 6,000 RPM, so you'll hear him miss a little bit. But you know, the biggest thing for Cody and the guys that come from desert racing is the fact that they've really got to get on the throttle quick and really get into the groove. They don't have time to get ready for those things to get warmed up that we typically would in a desert race. Brakes, transmission, those type of things. They got to get on the throttle and go.
All of these guys have had several days of practice here and qualifying, but the adrenaline is really kicking in right about now, huh?
It really is. These guys are really wired for this. They're excited. They're thrilled. It's a great place to race. They're all having a great time. I love it, and so do they.
Well, Ivan, let's head back to the start line where the rest of the Pro Trucks are lining up. This is the 212 Toyota of Austin Cameron. This Californian has quite a story. He was the 1998 Winston West Stock Car Rookie of the Year and has enjoyed a very successful oval racing career, but he got thrown a real curveball in 2003 when he experienced a life-threatening setback. We had a chance to sit down and talk with him earlier this week about his situation.
Ended up getting cancer. Got a non-Hodgkin's precursor T-cell lymphoblastic lymphoma. And so that put a serious dent in my career for about 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. I had nonstop chemo for like 2 years. And then after I was declared cured or cancer-free, I had to have open heart surgery after that, get a synthetic vein put in. And so that was mid 2005, and shooting back to normal. So I got an upper radiator hose in my chest and ready to get back in the race car. And I got back in the race car and had a couple wins in the stock car right after chemo and cancer and all that stuff and open heart surgery. And this year kind of took a little time off. I got a little munchkin now. He's like 13 months old, little Austin Cole Cameron, and so I took a little time off to hang out with my wife and my kid this year and talked to Ivan and got a great opportunity to come run this thing here at Pikes Peak. And shoot, I took the opportunity with, I was so excited. So excited. I mean, it's nothing like I've ever done. I mean, the NASCAR, the stock cars, I've raced the Busch Series, I raced the Nextel Cup Series. I've done a couple races there, and I mean, this is just, it's a whole nother world. It's awesome.
Well, I've known Austin for a long, long time. His dad, Terry, they've got a construction company in San Diego. Great competitors, love motorsports. And, you know, he comes from NASCAR, Winston West, and he should be very quick, especially on the asphalt, Steve.
We're now once again looking at our first Pro Truck on the hill. This is Cody Swanty in the Dodge, who will serve as our rabbit. He's nearing one of our timing checkpoints where we can get a good feel for just how well he's doing. This is the 16-mile marker. His time, you see it there, 10:42.633. Now, that's not 16 miles of the race, obviously. Pikes Peak is a 12-mile long race. That's highway marker 16, where they quickly transition from the asphalt here to dirt for the rest of the run to the finish line. Last year's Pro Truck winner, Charlie McDowell, as a reference point, had a finishing time of 14:32.97, so that's the time Cody is trying to beat.
Well, that's what these guys are doing. As we mentioned earlier, you know, once you establish a record, everyone wants to make that record fall, and that's what Cody wants to do. Again, Cody is a desert racer. Bringing these guys to Pikes Peak, it's a real challenge for him. Here he comes. Let's see what he got.
Looks like he's going to be somewhere with the time in the mid-15s there, Ivan, as he finishes his run up the hill.
Oh man, today was just absolutely awesome. You know, this is our first year up here racing, and it's just it's completely different than anything we've ever done before. And I mean, it was over before you knew it. I mean, it was awesome. The truck was great. It's real slippery out there. We spun it out in one corner, and we're lucky enough to save it and just keep going. So we're pretty happy with that. So.
When we come back, Dave Mason and James Wasson will be lining up, and we'll check on the progress of Austin Cameron. Stay with us. We'll be right back to Pikes Peak. Welcome back to the Baja Pro Trucks at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. I'm Steve Weiss, along with Ivan Ironman Stewart, as another of Ivan's Ford Pro Trucks gets ready to go. Dave Mason is at Pikes Peak for the first time.
This is our passion. This is what we do. A lot of people play golf. They do everything, you know, those type of things, stick and ball sports. I tell you what, these guys that are on my team and my crew chief, this is what we live, eat, and breathe. And although it's not what we do professionally, it's definitely what we love to do. And the opportunity to compete at 45 years old against other people, kids that are 18 years old up to people that are older than me at this high level. And anytime you get an opportunity to compete, it's exciting. And these Pro Trucks, it's very, very close, very competitive. So if you win one here, you've done something.
You can really make that statement in any Pro Truck race you go to, Ivan, from Pikes Peak to Laguna Seca to Baja, Mexico. The finishing times of these guys is usually really close.
And the reason for that is the trucks are all identical, and you can buy a truck right off the showroom floor, and you don't have to do the development on the suspension and the shocks and the A-arms and all those things. Right turnkey out of the showroom, so to speak, they're competitive with each other, and it shows on the racetrack. You can throw a blanket over these guys a lot of time in a desert race, and the times are going to be very, very close here, I'll guarantee you.
It also allows for a guy like Dave to join the class and be competitive right away.
Dave came from buggy racing in the desert, and he was able to pick this truck up, and he's going to be competitive right out of the box here in a Pro Truck.
We are now back up to the spot high on the hill where Austin Cameron is approaching the 16-mile marker. Remember, Cody Swanty's time was about 10:42 plus, so Austin's about 20 seconds quicker, and he has a real good run going here, although all these guys will tell you that one slip up, one spin out, you hit the ditch and you can give those 10 or 20 seconds right back.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. 2 or 3 little slip-ups and you can be way back. Now, keep in mind that Austin Cameron's had a lot of experience in the Winston West NASCAR circuit on the West Coast. And that's all on asphalt. Now, when it comes to dirt and gravel roads, he really doesn't quite have the experience a lot of these other guys have got. But he's hustling down the road pretty good. It'll be interesting to see the times, the time splits, and how efficiently he does get through these gravel roads. But he's on the gas pretty good. I got an idea he's going to have a pretty good time here.
His final few moments coming up to the finish line at Pikes Peak, and there you go, 14:54.189. That moves him into the first place spot for the moment. Of course, we have more Baja Pro Trucks lined up at the bottom.
First time up, all the Pro Truck guys are psyched. How are you feeling right now?
Feeling real good. I'm ready to go. We've been practicing here for 3 days. It's a beautiful course, beautiful mountain, really well-run organization. We're just extremely excited and very happy to be here.
One of the questions I ask a lot of guys, a lot different than Baja. How about you?
It's a lot different than Baja. You know, our run is usually, my driving stint in Baja is 7-8 hours. This is 14 minutes. Yeah, it's totally different than what we normally do.
Good luck in those 14 minutes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Wasson is another one of those guys eyeballing the points race. Jim is currently 4th in the points coming into Pikes Peak, and Ivan, I guess you'd have to figure that's a bit of a surprise for another one of the new guys in the Baja Pro Truck class. He finished 5th at the Baja 500, but his breakthrough really came at the first event of the season when he finished 2nd at the Score Laughlin Desert Challenge in this Arctic Cat-sponsored Baja Pro Truck. Jim is a member of the Bipolar Extreme Race Team.
You know, Jim mentioned something earlier that I thought was interesting when he mentioned how he's got to get into the groove really quick. And I used to have that same problem doing stadium racing and then coming to a Baja 500 where you just can't afford in a race like this, a 12-mile race or a short course race, to wait for the brakes and to wait for the transmission to warm up and to see how the steering's acting. You've got to really get on the throttle here and give it everything you've got, 110%, right off the bat. And sometimes that's really hard to do.
And it's not just the truck, Ivan. The driver has to be mentally and physically ready to go.
Well, there's no doubt about it. You know, you keep in mind that this is physical racing. It may not be a rough like a Baja 1000, but you're up at 12, 13, 14,000 feet. And these guys will be huffing and puffing. You watch them at the finish line, they're really getting a workout up this hill.
Thin air here in the Rocky Mountains, and most of these guys are not from this area, so it's something that's brand new to them. Ivan, your trucks are certainly a testing mechanism for the manufacturers where they get a chance to see how products perform in a hostile environment like Pikes Peak.
Well, it really is. You know, it's the ultimate test bed, I think, for any product. I don't care if it's the engine or if it's an air cleaner, if it's a tire, a wheel, shocks, whatever it is. Anytime you put them under these extreme conditions like Baja, Pikes Peak, you've got snow, you've got mud, you've got uphill, you've got downhill. And here at Pikes Peak, you know, the real thrill we're going to see right now is a brand new tire we're using and a brand new wheel.
It's a spec truck race, so all the vehicles will have the same wheels and tires on it. We currently had the 15x7 wheels that were on the trucks, but we just came out with our new 17x9 Pro Series wheels, and so we want to make sure that they were going to be in this race. These are forged alloy wheels. And what that means is they're fully wrought material. The material is in a cast structure. It's a fully worked, no porosity in it, and it also has grain in it, similar to like a 2x4 or a piece of wood, where it has strength by the direction of the grain, and a forged wheel has that same thing. So the strength that is in the direction of the spokes and along in the rim is how the stress is, and so it's the most premium and strongest wheel you can get.
I'm with Greg Vandermark from Yokohama Tires. Now, Greg, last year, you know, there was much more dirt on the Pikes Peak hill climb, and they've paved quite a bit of it, and we've gone from a mud and snow type of block tread to all-terrain. Tell me about the all-terrain.
Well, this is the Yokohama ATS, and we've also gone to the 17-inch rim this year, which helps in the sidewall deflection, which will give the trucks more stability up here also. But one of the features here is this staggered center block, and what it helps with and aids with is braking and acceleration. So also with the circumferential groove, it also aids with high-speed stability, which trickles down from our UHP technology.
Basically, we're getting more tire on the road. Now, one of the things you mentioned sidewall, one of the things we're concerned about, because we've had the rain and the cars and the race cars and trucks ahead of us could knock rocks into the road. How about the sidewall?
Well, we've got a 3-ply sidewall design on this, and it should be more than enough to handle anything that Pikes Peak throws at it. We've also run this in the desert, had great success as well. So.
Now, I understand this is the exact same tire that you can buy right off the Yokohama shelf at your local Yokohama tire store.
Absolutely. This is what our dealers carry and sell for us, and any consumer can buy it right off the shelf with confidence.
Well, I've got all the confidence in the world that the Yokohama tire will take us right to the top of Pikes Peak with no problem. Now we just have to wait and see which Pro Truck will be the quickest up Pikes Peak.
Thanks, Ivan. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more as Yokohama Tires presents the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. Steve Weiss and Ivan Stewart back at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, where we are watching for the third of the 10 Baja Pro Trucks who have qualified to make this run to the clouds. This is the 2007 Ford of Dave Mason, and as he approaches that 16-mile marker, we're looking for a time of 10:22 or better. That's Austin Cameron's time at this same spot.
Well, Dave is going to have a real challenge overcoming the difference of weight because he ran a buggy before, and this big, heavy truck is a lot different in braking.
We're taking everything we learned in Baja and basically going in opposite direction. Our trucks sit high in the desert. They got to clear big boulders. They got to clear huge, they got to traverse some really nasty terrain, rocks, boulders, and water crossings. Here, we drop it on the ground, and we're trying to make it handle like a Ferrari. I was kind of laughing. I told the guys, I said, I had to buy a Ford pickup truck to get my first Ferrari. I mean, the goal here is to make the thing handle, and so, you know, it's a completely different setup. It's low, tire pressures are different, the engine jetting's completely different than being at sea level in Baja. If you try to do a lot of finessing in the corners with these trucks we're running, these ProTrucks, you're going to get in trouble. You just got to really do a lot of braking early in the corners and power off.
The biggest thing is carrying speed, Steve, is these guys have got to get into these corners, they got to carry speed through the corner and just try and get that, great example right there, get through as quick as you can, carry that speed through these corners and do your best to just keep that speed going uphill.
And here you go, Ivan. Mason's time of 14:46.402 is good enough to push him to the top of the leaderboard. Next up at the start line, the Ultimate Arm 299 Chevy of Joe Bednar. Joe finished third in the points last season. His best finish, a second at the Prim 300. We talked with him before the race.
Well, I think what would separate me from the others is that I'm very organized, and I put together a project very well, and I ride with my partner George Peters, who's a longtime friend, and we communicate really well. So we have an advantage in communication and organization.
Joe and I are childhood friends, and we've been buddies since we were, you know, throwing rocks together.
He kind of reads my mind, I read his mind, and it's an extra little push that we get.
Try to just read the GPS to him as best I can, basically, and you know, I can see in the GPS the things that are coming up ahead of us, so it helps him prepare for the turn or for, you know, for the braking.
So co-pilots reading the car, reading the terrain, and reading the GPS, trying to keep you informed of what's coming up next, and good communication will keep you informed. If you're informed, you can react and keep up your speed.
So our timing has to be really good. We get in a rhythm, and we've been doing it for a long time, and if my timing's right, we can go fast. If my timing is not right, we go slow. Because I'll slow him down too early, or have him come in too late because I didn't slow him down soon enough. So timing is crucial.
Ivan, these guys do seem to work well together. Let's talk about the role of the co-driver. You never had a co-driver in all of your years of racing, but it's become a really important part of the sport these days, at least in the desert, for the desert racers.
Well, and it does here also, and they mentioned it. George mentioned teamwork and getting along and having a good time together. A lot of times, you know, you want the co-driver to read the GPS and be able to communicate to you, you know, how sharp the corners are, where the ditches are, these type of things. But they also want you to, it's good to have a co-driver that gives you encouragement once in a while, or even have to slow you down. Hey, you're going way too hard. We got a long race. You're wasting too much time. A good co-driver is very, very valuable.
We won't see it here, but of course in the desert races, another function of the co-driver is to jump out when that flat tire happens and get it changed as quickly as possible. We're back at the top section of the hill. This is just below the 16-mile marker, and Jim Wasson continues his run up Pikes Peak. He will be looking to beat the mark of 10 minutes and 18 seconds that Dave Mason just established at this timing position a few moments ago. And there you go, 10:24, so Jim is about 6 seconds off that pace, Ivan.
Well, again, I keep talking to Kerry about carrying speed is so important, but the other thing you can do is carry too much speed. You can go past that apex, you slide too far, it costs you too much time. You know, there's the ultimate way through a corner. In a road race, you have the ultimate lines. Here it changes a lot, but you've still got lines, and you still want to carry, again, I'm going to say carry speed, and it's hard to understand that, but that's what it's all about, getting up this hill as quick as you can.
And let's see his time, 14:56.269.
We ran it pretty consistent, I think. It was a little different than practice. Practice seemed like we had a lot more grip. We didn't have as much grip this time, especially on the gravel. We had a hard time getting bites. It was kind of, we would say, you've heard every driver here say it's pretty slippery.
Next up will be the Castrol Ford of Rob Reinertsen. Rob is a desert racing champion who joined the Baja Pro Truck ranks a few years ago, and he'll have his daughter Christine as his co-driver for this race.
We won 3 championships in 2 years, so we really were pretty fortunate. So when I got into this class, I really thought that I'd come in and win every race. You know, you think that you're going to do really well, and then you come into this class and it's an eye-opener because there's so many great drivers. There's a lot of drivers that come from other classes that do real well, and they come in here and it just makes things so tough to win.
Rob also talked about the tremendous challenge of racing through the clouds without experiencing any problems.
When you run a desert race, you're out there for 8 hours. You can make mistakes and recover from it. It's not that bad, other than a crash. Here, you blow one corner or 2 corners and you lose 20 seconds and you're done. You're, you know, middle to the bottom of the pack. So it's just a lot more intense.
Ivan, that intensity stretches all the way down into all of the crew members, and we haven't talked about those guys yet. They make the long trip out to Colorado. They get up at 3 a.m. every day of race week to get the trucks ready, and then they come out and work hard to make sure the trucks are running at their very best. Well, it's been a very challenging week for the Castrol team as they have battled a power issue through all of the practice sessions.
And I feel bad for these guys because they've gotten up early all week long, as you say, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they couldn't figure out exactly what it was. They thought it was a spark plugs, maybe jetting was off, but I guess what's happened is they've dropped the valve, and I feel bad for them. But you're right, it's a real family affair, and that's why I put 2 seats in these trucks, Steve, is because Rob can take his daughter up there. He can take a mechanic, take a friend, take a sponsor, and it's a great family sport. And they mention that, and there's nothing like it. I can't believe it. Every time I see his daughter, she just got a smile ear to ear. She's having a great time.
We have 4 Baja Pro trucks that have completed their runs, and our current leader is Dave Mason. His time about 12 seconds slower than the Pro Truck Pikes Peak record. We'll be right back to see if that record will hold up. Welcome back to the Baja Pro Trucks at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb presented by Yokohama Tires. I'm Steve Weiss along with Ivan Stewart, and we are riding along with Joe Bednar and George Peters and Ivan. They are on one of the more intimidating sections, I would think, of this 12-mile-long race course as they approach mile marker 16, where they will be looking to beat the time of the day, a 10:18 posted by Dave Mason.
You know, I've said it before, Steve, I'm just envious. You know, I just love this race. I love the challenge, the fact that it's there's no guardrail, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of elements here, different types of terrain. The rain can come, it can shine, it can hail. I just think this race is spectacular.
And we did see that their time was about 5 seconds faster than Mason, so they have a good run going here. But like you say, Ivan, this is where I'd start to maybe back off a little bit or start working that brake a little bit if I was driving, because I got to tell you, look at the side there. That looks scary.
You know, you want to make that bend at the apex as big as you can there, and you got to get right over close to that cliff, right? And that's hard to do at 70, 80 miles an hour.
Here they are coming to the finish line looking for a good time. 14:48.667. That puts them into second place. Ivan, a pretty good run for these guys. They got to feel real good about that.
And I tell you what, it's a good pump, it's excitement. This Chevy Baja Pro Truck, it put it out today. It really did.
Thanks to Ivan Stewart with the Pro Truck Series. This has a fun race up here.
A little love for you there, Ivan. Next at the start line, another member of the bipolar race team, Dave Cragen, in the big orange Baja Pro Truck. And once again, we have Kurt Hansen standing by.
Dave, first time up, what do you think of this deal?
Oh, it's an awesome mountain. I'm just hoping the spirit of the mountain's good to us. We're from the Mount St. Helens area. Like the mountains, and it's a beautiful state here.
Does that give you a competitive advantage?
You know, it's we're just going to run hard and have a clean run. If we do, we're hoping to be up front. With God, we'll make it.
Well, I don't know about an advantage there, Kurt, but Dave is pretty comfortable going up the mountainside, Ivan. Dave's prior experience is in both powerboats and on snowmobiles. Now, Dave's teammate, Jim Wasson, who we saw earlier, is a desert racer. That's where they came up with the name bipolar. 2 extremely different race backgrounds and climates, desert and snow, teaming up together. And Dave really turned a few heads last year when he finished second at the Ducati Score Baja 1000. Certainly one of the toughest races on your circuit.
Dave is really doing good. He's relatively new to off-road racing, but he's very aggressive, done very well. You know, you talk about racing, I don't care if it's snowmobiles or go-karts or whatever it is, any kind of experience you can get in motorsports pays off. But he's doing a great job, possibly a little bit too aggressive. If you watch sometimes, you'll get a little too sideways. Right there's a great example. Could have carried a little bit better speed through that corner, too.
Well, he is going to like the time on that. That is the quickest time so far today through that 16-mile marker spot. Let's jump on ahead now to the top of the hill where Rob Reinertsen in the Castro Ford is completing his run. Remember, he's down on power a little bit, but I'm sure this is still absolutely the ride of a lifetime for Rob's daughter, Christine, who we saw earlier. She's a college student in Los Angeles, majoring in communications, and she's interested in what we're doing, Ivan. She'd like to get into broadcasting, although at the moment I'll bet she's pretty happy right where she is as Rob's co-driver.
Can you imagine the story she's going to have when she gets back to school and tells her girlfriends how she rode with her dad at Pikes Peak? And that's why I love this sport. Is such a family type of motorsports. That's why I put that second seat in there, just so you can take your neighbor, your wife, your daughter, your son up the hill, maybe even a mechanic. But they all have a great time typically.
You can get involved in many aspects of this, not only as a co-driver, but as part of the crew, just part of the support team, whatever it takes. We're looking for his time here. It's not going to be what Rob likes, which is disappointing because this guy's very competitive, and this truck is a very good truck, had a lot of success, but there you see his time, 15:16.276. Currently, that leaves him in 5th place. Our next Baja Pro truck is one of the pre-race favorites, the Toyota of Gustavo Vildosola, or Tavo as we like to call him. He's definitely one of the rising stars in off-road. He's had a lot of success, but it's not just about the winning. There's something else that attracts him to this sport.
It's the adrenaline rush. You can't find it anywhere else. The adrenaline rush you get from Pikes Peak or from off-road racing or from any of the other types of motorsports that we participate in it's unequaled with anything that I've ever done. So that's what keeps us coming back, and it's a family, it's a family affair. We all come out, we love it. My dad's involved, and it's because of the adrenaline that you get, once you're running. My goal is to beat every other pro truck out here, and it doesn't matter if it's in 14 or 18 or whatever the amount of minutes it is. I'm not going for any record or anything. You can only control your own self. In off-road racing we have 500-mile courses. And then you worry about the other competitors and what they're doing and what their pace is. Here you just go as hard as you can, be as smooth as you can, and you hope it was good enough to win.
Tavo, in fact, has been good enough to win 7 times in the past 2 seasons. Nobody else could come close to that mark, Ivan. And you've really seen this young man grow up. You've known this racing family for a long time.
I really have. I've known Gus's dad for probably 25 or 30 years, and I've watched all the kids come up through off-road racing. That's Tavo's little brother riding with him, and they have a great time. They're involved in a lot of other different classes and just love the sport. His dad bought my first truck 10 years ago, truck number 1. So I love having them in the series. They're great competitors, always have good-looking trucks. Keep in mind now that Tavo's down a little bit on probably torque because he has a Toyota twin overhead cam motor, and the other guys have got push rod motors, but they get a few more cubic inches. So we'll see how the Toyota goes up the hill.
We're going to get a chance to check his 16-mile mark here, and there you go. That happens to be the fastest we've seen so far today. So he's making up for it by driving through it, Ivan. Pretty impressive driving by the young man here, but that is no surprise. I love this in-car angle, too. What a great shot. As Tavo continues his march up the hill, let's take a quick look at the leaders who have finished. Dave Mason continues to hold the top spot by just 2 seconds over Joe Bednar. Another 6 seconds back is Austin Cameron. But remember, the top 4 qualifiers are still on the hill, including Jason Voss, Mikey Childress, and of course, Tavo Vildosola. We'll be right back. This is Steve Weiss along with Ivan Ironman Stewart, and we are watching Dave Cragen in one of Ivan's Baja Pro trucks at the 85th running of the world-famous Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. We have 4 trucks left with a chance to break the Pikes Peak record set by Charlie McDowell last year. His time, 14 minutes and 32 seconds. So far, Dave Mason is the closest to that, but he fell 14 seconds short. However, this guy right here in the bright orange bipolar racing Baja Pro truck is running a much quicker pace. Ivan, he's got a real shot at this record.
Well, let me tell you, anytime there's a record, and you give these guys a race truck or a race car going up a hill and say, I bet you can't break the record, look out. Here they come.
He's on the very end of this course here. Let's see what his time is. 14:07.886, a new record.
Not as well as our best runs in practice, I would say. It's just a lot slicker. I do want to thank Arctic Cat helping us get up here on the mountain, and all the people from Colorado. Beautiful mountain, the spirit of the mountain, for bringing us up here safe, and all our team.
Speaking of young guns on the Baja Pro Truck circuit, how about this guy, Jason Voss, 5th in the series last year and currently the points leader coming into Pikes Peak.
This event for us, it's completely different than the desert racing. Real fun, long ways to come for 12 miles, but it's real fun, the mix of asphalt, dirt, sliding. Totally different setup for the truck, but it's a fun one. Our truck is a lot lower than normal, a lot less body roll. Our limit strap's real short. Our tow and our caster, our camber are all different in the front end for how it handles, pushing, sliding. The whole truck is just set up completely different, a lot lighter, trying to get as much power as we can up here in the altitude. less weight. Pikes Peak, it's been around. A lot of people race it. It's the 85th annual, so the race has a lot of history to it, and it'd be nice to say we've beat the mountain. We've won Pikes Peak. In Baja, I mean, you don't know what's around the next corner. It's something new every time, even though you pre-ran the day before, or it could be a ditch, or it's something new. And I mean, you're sideways, you're in control, but you're half out of control. It's fun. Living on the edge, it's exciting. You don't want to live a boring life.
Well, nothing boring about this ride, Ivan. He's up and running well. Tell us, what do you think about his setup?
Well, obviously, it's these guys know what they're doing. They're a racing family. They came from sprint cars. They're very aggressive. And setup, I mean, that's all the fine-tuning, and that's what the dotting your I's, crossing your T's are all about. Shock valving, sway bars, brake bias, all these things are set up, and these guys know what they're doing. He's going to be pretty quick up this hill, I believe, Steve.
We're going to see his time. There it is. That is the fastest so far today by 9 seconds. His time of 9:44.286. So he is having one very fast run, and the fans love it, all 15,000 of them who are lining this race course. Here again is one of Jason's rivals, Tavo Vildosola in the Toyota. And Ivan, well, we talked about Jason's setup. Is there a difference compared to what we saw with this one of Tavo's?
You know, it's really hard to tell. I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing this year is the trucks is you'll notice they're sitting really low, and that's something you typically wouldn't see in a desert race. So they want to get that center of gravity down. Gear ratios, the guys keep that a secret. Shock valving, brake bias, all these things come into play, but you know, the times will tell. Now you can hear the rev limiter there, and that's not necessarily the engine anything wrong. That's that MSD rev limiter that cuts the motors off at 6,000 RPM. But setup is going to be really, really critical in any race, and especially this one.
Also, some of it just has to be personal driver preference.
Yeah, it really is. That's a great point, because a lot of times it's just how you like the truck set up. But me, I just wanted to turn well, brake well, and get me up that hill as quick as I can.
Good time for Tavo.
We're happy. This is great weather. We loved it this time. We didn't have to deal with rain or snow or thunderstorms or anything, so we're happy about this year, and we really enjoyed it. It was slippery on the pavement. It was even slipperier on the dirt. So it was a little scary sometimes, you know, going around some of those corners. But you know, we managed to keep it in shape, and we ended up, I think, just messing up on one corner, and we made it up here, and that's I think a good job for everyone. So.
It makes for an interesting leaderboard. Tavo just broke the old Baja Pro Truck Pikes Peak record. The bad news for him, though, is that there was a new record set today by Dave Cragen, who is still clinging to that top spot. Dave Mason is third, followed by Joe Bednar, Austin Cameron, and Jim Wasson. However, our two fastest qualifiers are yet to finish. Jason Voss is on his way up the hill, and Mikey Childress has been fast in practice all week. Welcome back to the closing moments of the Baja Pro Trucks at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. I'm Steve Weiss along with Ivan Stewart, and here is another quick look at our current standings, and Dave Cragen is still the man on the top, but the two quickest qualifiers have yet to be contended with, and a guy who has really dominated the practice sessions is a guy in the 229 Ford, and that is Mikey Childress. Now, if that name sounds familiar, that's because young Mr. Childress has quite a racing resume, most of it on a motorcycle, where he has built a reputation as a Baja 1000 champion, and he is really looking forward to the challenge of this event.
You tell someone we're going to race from the bottom of this mountain to the top with 5,000-foot cliffs and giant boulders if you fly off the road. People are like, wow, you know, that sounds kind of fun. So I think the dangers and the thrills and the excitement are what's going to attract people, and that's what obviously has attracted me. Just think of this horrid, you know, racing on the edge of a mountain, and you fly off the road, you're going to die. And, you know, it's extreme. It's kind of like the guys doing backflips on motorcycles, but we're driving a truck up the side of a mountain, and if you make one little mistake, you know, it's certain injury, if not death, you know, if you go off in the right spot. Bike guys drive trucks like they're riding a bike. On a motorcycle, you know, we hit a small rock and you can crash from it. So even in the truck, you're riding along and you're still seeing those small rocks, and you're still trying to avoid them in the truck when you really don't have to. So I think that the motorcycle guys are a little easier on equipment because they're still have that mindset that they're on a bike.
Well, this should be fun to watch, Ivan. He is definitely very aggressive. Now, you watched him practice and qualify all week. What is he doing so differently than the other guys?
Well, you know, he's got a good truck. Tom Koch owns this truck and done a lot of racing, has prepped well. You know, he just drives it hard. He drives it smooth. He carries a lot of speed he carries through the corners there. The transition, he keeps the RPM up. That's just, you know, that's just part of, he is so good on the motorcycle. And you think about it, Steve, you put a guy like this that's not afraid of racing through Baja with the cattle in the night and the day, and then you put him in a truck with a cage around him, he gets pretty brave. You know, pretty much he has no fear. He's going to stand on the gas pedal. And that's what he's doing. He's aggressive, but not so aggressive. He's losing time.
You mentioned that this is Tom's truck. Actually, Tom's son, Joe David, is the navigator or co-driver in that truck. Time to check in again on Jason Voss, and the Baja Pro Truck Series points leader continues to move along at a record-setting pace. Ivan, his time indicates that if he doesn't bobble here, he has the chance to take over the lead in this race.
Well, again, these guys are very experienced, came from sprint car racing. Again, understand racing, understand speed, how to set the truck up, and that's a beautiful truck. Those trucks are always very well prepared. They do great in Mexico. They don't have a lot of experience in desert racing, but just racing alone and getting around corners, especially left-handers, Steve, since you're in sprint car racing, that's basically all you do. But always good, great family, really into the sport, and just a lot of fun to watch them grow and have a great time in the Pro Truck Series.
And look at that view. If you've got time to watch it, just an unbelievable, gorgeous day here at Pikes Peak. We talked about earlier how the elements can come in and affect this race. Not this year. These guys have the benefit of some beautiful weather here at Pikes Peak, and that's what's helping these guys set these records, and I think we're going to see another one here. There it is, 14:01.283. He has moved into first place, and let's update the leaderboard. And as you can see, Jason Voss moves into the top spot with the new Baja Pro Trucks Pikes Peak record time, just a tick over 14 minutes flat. That moves Cragen down to second, Valdosola to third, Mason, Bednar, and Cameron round out the top six. One guy left who can change all that, Mike Childress. We'll be right back to see if the Baja Motorcycle Champion can do it. This is the Baja Pro Trucks at the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, presented by Yokohama Tires.
Ivan's a great guy. This division that we get to race in Pro Truck, he spends a lot of time developing sponsors and putting together a purse. There's no other division in off-road racing where you can race for over $100,000 to win a championship.
Ivan does an awesome job putting it on. I mean, we get to go different places and do different things.
Ivan Stewart's done an awesome job putting this Pro Truck Series together, all equal trucks, and it really provides a great platform for us to race against each other.
I think Ivan's great. Ivan's a hard-working man. He puts a lot of time into this. He's really proud of his Pro Trucks.
He's just a great guy, putting his effort into it and bringing us to venues like this.
This venue, Ivan, has 156 turns, and Mikey Childress is attacking each and every one of them. He is approaching the 16-mile marker spot, and he is on a record-setting pace. Ivan, we'll see what his time is, but I know one thing, it's going to be fast.
It's going to be very, very fast. You know, notice he takes a lot of different lines. He's having fun, he's confident. Anytime you let a guy like this, with this much talent, in a good truck, you got a great truck, give him a little bit of that confidence that, hey, I can do this, you know, he's going to be tough. He's taking new lines. Look at here, he's got a little bit of a rally style, drifting style through that corner, carrying speed, looks good. He's going to be tough to beat, Steve.
And by the way, you saw that right there, Ivan, his 16-mile record of 9:34.432, about 10 seconds faster than Voss was, so all he has to do is hold it together here, and that seems like something he's very capable of doing. If there's one other thing you can say about Mikey, he's a winner.
He's a winner, he knows how to win. You know, the other thing is he chose the right time to start this race, because now if you'll notice, a lot of that loose gravel is off, and he's driving right on that hard part of the ground. In other words, that gravel's gone, a lot of guys are knocking away, he's getting good traction. I got a feeling some times are going to fall.
We're going to see it here as he comes across the finish line looking for a new Baja Pro Truck record, and we have it. There it is, 13:50.465 by 10 seconds. Our final standings of the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, with the new record established by Mike Childress, Jason Voss second, David Cragen third. Ivan, just a wonderful week here at Pikes Peak.
Well, I tell you what, I've had a great time. I hope you have, and I can't wait to get back next year, Steve. I've got to really thank our sponsors, Yokohama Tires, MagnaFlow Mufflers, MSD Ignition, Bilstein Shocks, Mastercraft Seats, Alcoa Wheels, VP Fuel, and K&N Filters.
Mike Childress is the 2007 Baja Pro Trucks Pikes Peak champion. Congratulations to his entire team. So long, everyone, from Pikes Peak. high in the Rocky Mountains. Yokohama Tire's presentation of the Baja Pro Trucks at the 85th running of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb has been produced by JSP Broadcast of Denver, Colorado.